Now let's finally talk about how we break them apart into energy. So what you have to do with fatty acids is that your body takes CoAsh, that coenzyme A, and then attaches it to a fatty acid. Now the interesting thing is that your body does metabolic processes and reactions that breaks apart two carbons from a fatty acid and attaches a new acetyl-CoA, or actually attaches a new coenzyme A molecule, or CoAsh. So what they do is keep on repeating this process. As you break off these two carbon molecules linked to coenzyme A, you have all this acetyl-CoA. So this is what you're generating. Two carbons, remember that acetyl part of the acetyl-CoA is a two carbon molecule, and you have your coenzyme A. So this is identical to the acetyl-CoA we talked about when we converted pyruvate to a two carbon acetyl-CoA. So this is an interesting thing. Your fatty acids, if you want to break them down into energy, you generate acetyl-CoA from a fatty acid. And this is why typically in your body and your cells, fatty acids have an even number of carbons. And there's always someone who asks, like, okay, what if do odd number carbons exist? Yes, there is. And in general, what does that do? It's just another step. Your body gets rid of that odd number carbon and makes an even number carbon fatty acids from it anyway. So that's what happens here. So fatty acids, they're converted into acetyl-CoA, and the process is called beta-oxidation. So that refers to the specific process of converting fatty acids to acetyl-CoA. And beta, if you know your Greek alphabet, that's the second letter in the Greek alphabet, right? So this is why you have the two carbons. So beta-oxidation is breaking apart fatty acids 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 carbons until you have a bunch of acetyl-CoA from that original fatty acid. Now this also occurs in the mitochondria. This is why the mitochondria are super important, and this is why they deserve the powerhouse of the cell meme and name, because they're metabolizing, they do the Krebs cycle, they do electron transport chain, they do beta oxidation. They're very important in harvesting ATP from all the nutrients that enter your cells. Now, where does the acetyl-CoA go? Well, this might sound very familiar. Hey, where else did we see acetyl-CoA? That feeds directly into the Krebs cycle. So you can take all the acetyl-CoA you generated via beta oxidation from a fatty acid, plug into the Krebs cycle, and generate a bunch of NADH and FADH2 with that minor amounts of GTP and ATP. Yep, so that's what happens. All that acetyl-CoA is one turn of that citric acid cycle and all the NADH and FADH that comes from that. So yeah, that's what you have. Now, what does the citric acid cycle generate? Say again, our NADH, FADH2, and some ATP. So this is why every time you break apart those two carbons via beta oxidation, you can generate a lot of energy. This is why fatty acids and lipids have more energy per gram than glucose, because notice that we had just one fatty acid, and just by dividing it by, this is another twist too. It's not just the acetyl-CoA you generate from the fatty acid. Every time you break apart two carbons and generate a acetyl-CoA molecule, it actually also generates NADH and FADH2. So every time you break off two carbons, you generate one molecule of NADH and one molecule of FADH2. So beta oxidation also generates NADH and FADH2. This is actually before you even get into the citric acid cycle. So remember, NADH and FADH2, these have energy, and your electron transport chain can cash that out via oxidative phosphorylation to generate ATP. So you're already generating a reserve of NADH and FADH2 even before you get into the citric acid cycle. So that's what I'm getting at here. You're generating a lot of acetyl-CoA, but you're also generating a lot of NADH. You're also generating a lot of FADH2. So again, red blood cells lack mitochondria. And can these still occur? Glycolysis. Again, glycolysis, yes, because we still have cytosol. Citric acid cycle, nope. Now, beta oxidation. If red blood cells might lack mitochondria, can they use beta oxidation? Or where does beta oxidation go? It was in a few slides back. Well, someone said no, and they're correct. You can't do beta oxidation because you don't have mitochondria. So this is why, again, red blood cells, they need glucose. This is why you need gluconeogenesis. How are you going to feed your red blood cells? You can throw all the fatty acids you want at them, but without mitochondria, there's no beta oxidation to be done. So this is why mitochondria or red blood cells can't use fatty acids. Now, how and where fatty acids catabolized? Again, you need those mitochondria.